Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for joining us again for day 2 of Converge 2025. Yesterday was all about ideas, bold visions, global voices, and one clear message. AI is no longer a promise, it's an execution challenge. We heard how leaders across industries are breaking through AI paralysis, turning ambition into measurable impact. And today, it's time to go hands-on, to see what happens when that mindset meets real technology, the platforms, architectures, and governance models that make enterprise-scale AI a reality. From inspiration to execution, that's what day 2 is all about. And to kick things off, we're joined by someone who's been shaping this future long before it became a trend. Guibert Englebienne, co-founder of Globant and president of Latam and Globant X. He'll share what AI truly means for business today. Please welcome Guibert.
Hey everyone, good morning. It's great to see you all back for day 2 of Converge 2025. Yesterday was all about ideas, the big picture, the bold vision. Today, we will move from talking about the future to building it. You know, if you think about it, we are living through a new kind of renaissance. Back then, it was about rediscovering what it meant to be human. Curiosity, creation, imagination. Today, it's happening again, but this time, our canvas isn't marble or paint. It is intelligence itself. We are not just building tools, we are teaching technology to think with us. And just like the artists and thinkers of the 1500s, we are redefining what's possible when creativity meets technology. The question is no longer what AI can do, but what we can do through AI. How we design, lead, and dream in ways that make progress more human, not less. Because let's be honest, AI isn't coming, it's already here, everywhere, moving faster than most companies can keep it up. And yet, so many are still stuck. Stuck in endless pilots, stuck in tool debates, stuck in meetings about meetings. The problem isn't technology, it is the hesitation. And as Sanjit Paul-Choudhary said, AI adoption isn't a technology problem. It is a behavioral one. And it's not about the models, it's about mindset. Because fear of getting it wrong is keeping too many from getting it right. And that's what we call AI paralysis. And that's what exactly we are here to break. At Globant, we've been preparing for this moment for years. The moment when AI stops being a buzzword and becomes the new operating system of business. And our vision is simple. The future belongs to companies that act, that moves fast, that experiment and learn even faster. That's why we built Globant Enterprise AI, a platform that connects people, systems, and agents. It's built to help companies turn chaos into clarity and ideas into action. To orchestrate AI across every workflow, safely, responsibly, and with real impact. And then we took it a step further with AI Pods, our subscription model that brings together hybrid teams of human creativity and agentic AI. They are focused on outcomes. They are already transforming workflows, accelerating decisions, and proving that the true power of AI happens when humans and machines build together. So today, you'll see that in action. Real cases, real demos, real impact. How leading organizations are using AI, not just to automate, but to scale imagination. And here's a little heads up. If you stay until the end of today's sessions, you'll get access to a free trial of Globant Enterprise AI, your chance to experience firsthand what orchestration looks like when AI becomes part of how your business actually runs. Because transformation doesn't happen when you understand AI. It happens when you start using it. Now, to kick off the day, I want to take you to San Francisco. A few days ago, I sat down with Vivienne, COO of Salesforce Unified Agentforce platform, for a conversation about what's next. We talked about Agentic AI, how software is evolving from passive tools to proactive learning partners that can reason, act, and grow alongside us. It is a conversation about leadership, trust, and the human side of transformation, how we evolve from fear to fluency, from hesitation to real change. Let's dive into it. Here's my conversation with Vivienne.
What I think we have embraced is, especially in the technology world, resistance is futile, the constant is change. So from a leadership mindset, and in fact for every single person's mindset, this is an era for builders.
Hello everyone, and welcome to day 2 of Converge. For the last 2 decades, companies have been running on cloud and software as a service as a way to automate different processes, from customer service to sales. Everything has been built to actually follow the way that we wanted the software to actually run. But today, with AI agents, we are seeing for the first time software that can reason, learn, and act autonomously. It's not a surprise that will change dramatically how organizations are actually running, and how to prepare is something that we need to think about. That's why today I would like to invite Vivienne Wade, who is the Salesforce Unified Agentforce platform COO, to give us her thoughts on what it takes for an organization to adopt AI agents in a proper manner. That's going to be a tremendous transformation, and I believe there are many angles that we should touch upon. And so I would like to welcome Vivienne. Hello, Vivienne. Nice to see you again.
Hey, Guibert, it's so great to see you again. I remember when we met in Argentina, Buenos Aires, when Globant first launched the AI pods, and it's nice to reconnect.
It's great to talk to you always, and thank you for coming to Converge to share your vision on this. For as organizations who are evolving from software that is doing what has been planned, has been tested, software that has been built on rules, and now moving to an agentic way of thinking. How do you think organizations should adapt to manage an organization that will now consist of humans and agents collaborating?
Yeah, it's such a great question. We've been on this AI journey for a while. Started in October, really back in the days with predictive AI, and then back in November of 2022 with the launch of OpenAI and ChatGPT, getting to the generative AI phase. But I think this next wave of change is on the Agentic AI, where we go from automation to AI-assisted decision-making and driving actions. And a lot of the companies we're working with today, 12,000 customers around the world, are really helping them completely change how the organization is wired. And I think a lot about, how do we equip and empower employees and reimagine the workflow with human and agents together, working together jointly to unlock more possibilities, whether it's growth or efficiency for the organization.
We got surprised by the power of AI, but it seems like reorganizing the workflows with agents is gonna change entirely the field. You can actually rethink completely your business by coordinating agents and humans. And for the first time, as Mark Benioff pointed out, we're going to be leading organizations that are, that will not just be the humans that you see on the office, the ones that are going to be collaborating. What's the right attitude for a leader to actually adopt AI agents? How shall we think of leadership in the following years?
It's such a great question. I think about when ChatGPT got launched, there's a tremendous of individual productivity, creativity that got launched. Because now all of a sudden developers can use AI agents to develop and write code, which is fantastic. But with Agentic AI, from a transformation standpoint, large organizations can actually harness the power of Agentic AI systems at scale. So for example, with Help Agent on Salesforce.com website, now our agents are resolving over 74% of case resolutions and have already handled 2 million conversations. Now for a leader, you could look at this, and I think this is where the leaders get it wrong, to say, hey, I'm gonna just use AI to drive more efficiency and cut my workforce. That is absolutely the wrong way to think about growth. You don't grow to be $1 trillion business by cutting. What you really need to do is to bring your teams along that journey, set the vision for the future, and then equip them with the set of skills that's needed. Because here, you see, we've created a new class of jobs that are agent managers. And what do those jobs do? It's a combination of building AI agents that transform how companies run. The existing workflow with human and agent, that design in mind, instead of just having an AI bolt-on. And then the second thing is you need people who actually have the subject matter expertise to manage those digital teammates. And what does that mean? It means you're not just managing a human with trust but verify, but instead you need to be managing those agents with complete control because they're making decisions on your behalf. That means they may be interacting with customers. And so some control and some governance on how these agents are performing. Are they performing to your standards, your expectations? And if they're not, how are you tweaking those agents in real time?
Is your voice, you want, how you treat your customers is it eventually translates in the brand perception. How do you make sure that your agents are going to represent you well? How can you build trust? How can you build responsibility on the treatment that these agents are actually delivering to your customers? That's going to be important. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I really think about AI agents are an extension of your workforce. And there's multiple things. One is how much responsibilities do you actually give to the agents? What can they handle? And what's going to be more complex that you need to escalate to humans? That's a set of decisions you need to make. And then the second thing is what are the agents not able to handle and should not be handling? That's where we need to set the guardrails about the agents. The third thing, which is probably the most important thing, is about governance. What kind of data access can the agent take and have access to? And also, is it about enterprise silo data, or is it the holistic view of the entire customer journey that you give the agents access to?
I imagine, there's going to be a lot of trust to be built within your teams with the agents that they work with. A lot of fears, a lot of worries, a lot of competition. Saying people perhaps not be willing to outsource to an agent some part of what they used to be doing. What kind of upskilling do you think is going to be needed in order for the workforce to actually come up to accept and to work along with agents?
Yeah, what I think we have embraced is, especially in the technology world, resistance is futile, the constant is change. So from a leadership mindset, and in fact, for every single person's mindset, this is an era for builders. even as leaders, we need to be building, we need to be on the ground, running with our teams, understanding what they're doing. What can we enable them with the tools, the learning, and more importantly, the safety mindset? We talk about psychological safety. Is it safe for people to experiment, come up with a new idea, and have the tools? We equip them with the tools to build an experiment. And then from there, learn and improve in real time. That's a short feedback loop, because if you don't do that, you risk being irrelevant, not only in the technology world, but also in large enterprises.
Today, I must confess that I see many organizations still in a paralysis mode, like, oh, we don't know which model we are going to use. We don't see, we are giving away, individual tools rather than thinking at the whole workflow of the company. So what do you think are, in your experience, what are the things that are needed to move passing the fear, and the resistance for AI adoption in large enterprises?
The key is defining what is the outcome. What is the desired outcome for the organization to move the needle, whether it's top line growth or bottom line efficiency, and a lot of times it's both. From there, you identify, hey, what is a short list of highly prioritized use cases that we should be going after? And then once that's clear, now going down to use cases, an agent is only as good as the data that it has access to. Then figure out, every single organization, to your point, is going through that data maturity, understanding what are the data, what are the sets of data they need to provide the agent. In our case, we use Data 360 that's integrating, whether it's front-end office CRM data or back-end ERP data, stitching it together with the unified view of a customer. And then at the end of the day, you're here as an enterprise to serve the customer needs. So giving the agents to that set of relevant data, then the agent will take actions on. And then the last thing, actually it's probably the most important thing, is having the trusted governance in place so there's no bias, hallucination. You improve the accuracy to make sure the agent actually is acting to the needs of the business as you set it out to be.
And one of the things that we need to develop is essentially this mindset of continuously upgrading, our systems, and I believe there are going to be new roles within the organization and new ways of understanding and measuring performance for the whole organization. It's going to be, ensuring that everything is running properly. When you don't see the agents, you are not listening to them, it's going to be really interesting.
Yes, absolutely. And I actually think partners like yours are extremely important. Going back to the outcome point, if I'm a CEO, I'm thinking about, hey, what is the path of least resistance for me to get to that outcome quickly? And a lot of them are actually coming to us because they believe in this trusted agentic enterprise platform we have built, and then partnering with somebody like Globant to actually deliver to the outcome as an extension of their team.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I believe there's a matter of, moving fast in that regards, because at the end of the day, if you don't do it, your competitor will do it, and that's going to play significantly in favor of them. Well, Vivienne, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you very much for being here at Converge. For us, it's very inspiring to listen to Salesforce view on Agentic AI. So we continue, to be a great partner of Salesforce, and it's a pleasure to work together. And we look forward to continue riding this revolution.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a great pleasure. Always great to work with and talk to another technology evangelist and practitioner. So thank you, Guibert.
Thank you, Vivienne. Great to see you. Ciao.
Global leaders are choosing a new model. La Liga chose it. YPF chose it. Many more already did. AI Pods by Globant. The first subscription model for AI-powered engineering, Agentic AI, orchestrated and supervised by Globant experts, ready to spin up in seconds, not weeks. Engineering, creativity, and automation, reloaded, aligned to outcomes, subscription-powered, token-based throughput capacity. This is more than a shift in technology. It's a new way to move, build, and grow. No more software as a service. It's time for services as software. Globant. Technology that dares.
What a great conversation between Guibert and Vivienne. So many powerful ideas of how AI is reshaping the way we build, think, and create. And that's exactly where we're heading next. Because if there's one big question every company is asking right now, it's this. How do we actually adopt AI for real? Not just experiments or pilots, but transformation with purpose. We're entering in an era where intelligence is no longer just a tool. It's the infrastructure behind everything we build. The real challenge isn't using AI, it's connecting it. Connecting models, data, and agents under one clear governed path. And that's what Globant Enterprise AI is doing, building the systems that help companies evolve safely and intelligently. To tell us more, please welcome two incredible leaders, Nicolás Jodal, CEO of GeneXus, and Gastón Milano, CTO of Globant Enterprise AI. They'll share how we can move from automation to orchestration, to coding, to co-creating, and how the future of software isn't just written, it's orchestrated. Nicolás, Gastón, over to you.
Friends, we're 3 years out from the launch of ChatGPT. Now is the time to look back a little, reflect, and understand what has worked, what hasn't, and how we're gonna make things work. For that, I think there are two events that are extremely significant. The first is that the adoption of generative ideas by consumers has been impressive. Our children, our parents, our grandparents use AI. So that's one side, the good side. On the other hand, there's another side, which is that companies haven't adopted it at the same speed, not even close. So the purpose of today's talk is to try to understand why this has happened, why it's still happening, that companies haven't managed to do it yet, and above all, what we can do so that companies can actually achieve this process. But for that, before we look at what the path is, the first thing is to understand how the process of technology adoption works. And the person who inspired me to understand a bit more about why this was happening, why consumers adopted so quickly and companies not so much, was a man named Ben Thompson, who wrote an article that, in particular, in some way described other significant waves where there were major technological changes and where there was also, notably, a certain delay in adoption by companies. So let's take a look at some of those waves. For the first wave, to tell you about the first wave, I want to go pretty far back. I want to go to Ohio in 1908 and tell you how people worked in a bank at that time, before we, the IT people, showed up. So take a look. This is a bank. This is one of the first photos ever taken in a bank in Ohio. If you look at it, there are quite a few interesting things in that photo. First, people worked standing up. It's actually pretty recent that we started sitting down to work. Next, I don't know if you can see it in the photo, but there's a cage in the back. That cage, what it had was, that's where the tellers were. That's where people worked. That's where the employees were, where customers would come and hand over money. And what you're seeing in the back is actually the back office, which is the area where the people who were responsible for recording the transactions that had taken place at the counter worked. As you can see, the way they recorded things was simply with ink, most likely with a fountain pen, in huge, heavy ledgers where absolutely everything was carefully written down. Another interesting thing is that there were only men. Well, around that time, two companies appeared, NSR and IBM, and they started talking to the presidents of these banks, telling them, I have a machine that records things much better than these people in the back office. So if you, let's say, buy our machine, you can make things much more efficient. You can automate the back office. So in this first wave, if you will, what happened was, let's say, what we focused on was automating the back office. The promise was that I would be able to do things with the machine using fewer people. But I want to jump ahead 20 years and show you how one of the first banks to accept this proposal was the Bank of America. And that was the big secret to its success for the next 50 years. Take a look at this photo of the Bank of America back office 20 years later. Now, again, there are some interesting things here. People worked sitting down, they worked with machines, and women started to appear. But the most interesting thing is that there are more people than before. That's where a paradox appeared. How's it possible that I have a machine to automate the back office, to do things with fewer people, and I end up with more people? Well, the interesting thing is that I ended up with more people because the Bank of America realized that with this machine, not only could they do the same things more efficiently, but they could also do things they couldn't do before. In other words, more than just improving efficiency, what they really did was change their effectiveness. And banks started working in ways they couldn't before, especially when it came to scale. They were able to serve many more clients than they used to. We'll see that a little later on. If I go to the 1970s, this is what the back office of Bank of America looked like in the 70s. As you can see, it was all machines. Everyone's sitting down, all women and a lot more people. That was with punch cards that were being fed into huge IBM mainframes where they recorded everything. So if you like, this first wave was a wave of automating the back office, and we can say it was a top-down wave. What happens is, someone convinces the company president that something needs to be done to make the company more efficient, and that project gets done. But over time, someone realizes that by making things more efficient, they can do new things that weren't possible before and also become effective at something new. So this is the wave, our very first significant wave, to which we dedicated most of our time and effort during the early days of computing. Right around the same time that photo was taken, the second wave of computing, which brought about new advancements and changes, appeared on the scene. It appeared with this machine. Take a look. This machine, as you can see, is a machine. It's the Apple II. It's Apple's first successful product. The Apple I product was a failure, but the Apple II was a tremendous success. The machine was actually very rudimentary. Obviously, by modern standards, it's very basic, but even for the standards of that time, which was 1977, it was still pretty rudimentary. The only thing you could buy was the machine itself. Everything else, the cassette player, the TV behind it, etc., you had to buy separately. But along with this particular machine, the most interesting and notable feature, besides the fact that it was very cheap, costing only about $600 or so, was that one of Apple's co-founders, Steve Jobs, while he was working on developing this machine, was actually reading a book, specifically a biology paper. One of the always interesting things is that the great innovators tend to be generalists. That is, they don't just read about computer science, but they read about all sorts of other things and get inspiration from there. The biology paper Steve Jobs was reading analyzed how efficient animals were at moving and ranked them to see which animal was the most efficient. It concluded that the most efficient animal for movement is the condor. The condor is an animal that, by barely moving its wings, manages to travel kilometers and kilometers. Humans were more or less in the middle of the ranking, not among the best or the worst, but what caught Steve Jobs' attention was a paragraph at the end by one of the authors, which said that if you gave a human a bicycle, then they became much more efficient than the condor. You might say, well, that's pretty amusing, but what does that have to do with the Apple II? Well, the Apple II was launched with a vision. Steve Jobs' vision was, I want my machine to be a bicycle for the mind. What he truly wanted was a tremendously powerful and innovative tool for individual productivity, one that would allow people to go far beyond any other way of working that had ever existed before. What it allowed was, with very little money, it was actually the very first computer you could use without ever needing a professional programmer. Now, the reality of that computer, of that vision, was that in reality it was empty, because in practice, what was it going to be used for? However, some time passed, and again I come back to this point. There's always a gap. It takes time to realize what you can use it for. And so the vision that seemed empty ends up being fulfilled. It ends up being right and true when 2 years later, a man named Dan Bricklin was at a conference at Harvard, apparently a bit bored, and he came up with an idea that led him to create this product, this software package. It was the first killer app. What you're seeing there is the first version of a spreadsheet. It looks very rudimentary, but at its core, it's still the same spreadsheets we know today. They have rows, they have columns, you can do calculations, and so on. That first spreadsheet was called VisiCalc. Dan Bricklin created a company called VisiCorp, but unfortunately, it didn't survive the 1980s. This is another thing that sometimes happens. Sometimes those who arrive first don't make it to the end. That is, after that came Lotus 1-2-3, then Microsoft with Office, and so on. So the idea of the electronic spreadsheet continued, but what didn't continue was VisiCorp. But what's interesting, as I was saying, is that having this was the first time I had a computer that was like a bicycle for the mind. I could use the Apple II without needing to talk to a programmer to make a program for me. I would load the Excel spreadsheet and start working with it. That led to a massive adoption among consumers. People started using it, it was cheap, and they started using it. So, well, those are the two, if you will. Here we have two philosophies. The first one, automating the back office, is top-down. It's the company president who makes the decision to launch a big project, and from there it gets implemented down the line. And this second wave is a bottom-up wave, from the ground up. That is to say, there's no official company decision. Instead, people buy the computer and start using it. So these are the two philosophies. We have one that's top-down and another that's bottom-up. The thing is, now we're in the third wave. That wave, the wave of generative AI. So the big question is, which of the two philosophies will be applied in this wave? The top-down one, automating the back office, or the bottom-up one, of bicycles for the mind? The answer, and this is what makes the situation so complex, is that actually it's both. We're going to use AI for both philosophies, to do both things. In fact, one of the things we learned at Globant over these 3 years is that there are basically 3 use cases where I'm going to use AI in companies. Let's look at each one of them. The first is what we could call bicycles for the mind. It's about having, just like Bill Gates wanted a computer on every desk, now what we're going to have is an AI on every desk. Now, what are we going to use it for? So the first thing we're going to use it for is chat. We're going to use chat, just like, let's say we use it at home with ChatGPT. The difference is that if we're in a company, we have to be much more careful. Who can access it? What kind of computing power does it need? What documentation can it access? And so on and so forth. But one of the main points is to try to democratize the use of AI in the same way that the use of personal computers, PCs, was democratized back in the day. So an important component is that there shouldn't be licensing per person or per seat, but rather licensing based on usage. That way, the more people in the company who can use it, the better. Now, what is this AI used for on each computer? Well, first for chatting, asking it questions, and so on. But actually, the important point for companies is what I like to call the super search. It's the first time that we'll be able to, at a company level, query the massive amount of text that companies have at scale. For us, as IT professionals up until now, the text and documents that the company had weren't really something we paid attention to. At most, what we could do was help with digitization so we wouldn't have to store them on paper. But we couldn't really do anything. Let's say we didn't do anything particularly interesting with that. For many years, people have tried to have search like Google has for the internet. How can I have something like that for my intranet, for internal documents? That failed, actually. Google tried everything. At one point, I remember there was even a hardware you could install in your company to do that, but the truth is it never really took off. This is the first time we have a real success story. Being able to query all the text we have at scale in a secure, private way, and so on. The name for this is a bit odd. It's called RAG. But what it means is that I can query my documents, I can query my text. One of the things I do when I go to a new company that asks me how they can adopt AI, the first thing I ask is, what documents do you have? What documents? Because that's the first use case. It's like a bicycle for the mind. It's about giving each person the ability to access, of course, only those who have permission, to access the documents so they can start working in ways that weren't possible before. As time goes by, first, it starts with chat, then with RAG, and then it moves on to what we call an assistant, which is the idea that in my job, I pretty much always ask the same questions. So if I tend to ask the same questions, what I'm going to try to do is have an assistant that helps me with that. I'll give you a concrete example from my own experience, for instance. One of the things I do is check about once a month, more or less, how our competitors are doing in the low-code world. So I have an assistant to whom I said, these are my competitors. These are their websites, and I want you to check if there are any changes in their business model, any new products, or anything that might interest me. So I run that assistant or ask that assistant questions, and that's how I manage things. In practice, I have 7 assistants that help me with different topics I'm interested in. So that's the first use case. Now, the second use case is actually one that I think is super important, and in fact, it doesn't get much press, which is the case where we're going to put AI not just on every desktop, but also. We have to put AI into each and every one of our systems, making sure that all of our systems are enhanced and improved by artificial intelligence. What I mean is that the way we interact with our systems is gonna change, or at least we're gonna have a new way to interact in addition to the previous ones. Today, we can say that the way we interact, broadly speaking, is point and click. That is, I move around with my finger, with the mouse, I see something that interests me, I click on it, and then I move to the next place, and so on. Well, that way of interacting with systems isn't going to disappear. What's happening is that a new one is emerging. What's the new way? The new way is that instead of using point and click, I can tell the system my intention, what I want, and the system helps guide me to the right place. Let me give you another concrete example. The other day, we were talking with a company that has an ERP system. I asked them how many screens their ERP has, and they told me it has 3,240 screens. The question that came to mind was, how do users know which of the 3,240 screens they need to go to? Because, in a way, no one logs into an ERP like they do Instagram just to see what's going on. You log in because you have an intention. You want to find something out. Like, I want to know what debt this client owes me, or things like that. The answer right now is that there are expert users who know how to navigate, how to get where they need to go, and there are others who are less experienced who move through the menu and eventually get there. But what's happening is that users have to have a mental model of how the ERP works in order to move around. Well, that's something I can completely change. What I can do now is add, let's say, an AI layer, as I call it, and when the ERP starts up, have a search box. Just like the search box you have with Google, but only for my ERP. So I say, I want to know how much this client owes me. And what the system will do is not just give me an answer, but actually take me to the right screen. Some of those 3,240 screens that have the answer. So that's called intent-based navigation. It's the first concrete use we're going to have of AI in these systems. But as time goes on, what's going to happen is something more sophisticated, where we'll move into a full conversation. Not only do I want to tell it what my intention is, but for example, I could say, look, I just sold this product. Make the invoice for me. And instead of having to go into a form and enter the data, I could have a dialogue, have a chat, and through that, the data would be entered for me. So let's say another effect is that we're going to rewrite, let's say, many of the systems, or sometimes for intent-based navigation, you don't even have to rewrite anything. The only thing you need to do is add an AI layer to each of the systems. The third use case, which is quite a bit more sophisticated and is often discussed in the media, is when I want to add AI to each and every one of my business processes, specifically to the various processes that I have within the company. We're going to call that agents in this context. And one way I see this more clearly is basically when I go to a company, I ask them where the documents are, which is what I mentioned for the first part. And for this case, what I ask is, take me to the back office, show me the people who are working, let me see what they're doing. And usually in a company that has already gone through its digital transformation, the people in the back office are doing some kind of coordination task without consensus. What do I mean by that? They're probably coordinating with clients or suppliers in a way that's pretty informal, calling them on the phone, sending emails, doing those kinds of things to coordinate some of those tasks. Well, today we have, going back to the first wave, we can automate those processes in ways we couldn't before. Without AI, it just wasn't possible. Now we can do it. All right, friends, these are the three scenarios for using AI. We've already gone through them, and during this process, we ended up developing a platform called Globant Enterprise AI. I'd like to invite Gastón to come up and tell us what this is all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicolás. Hello to all my friends. As Nicolás said, we are experiencing a new wave of artificial intelligence. Today we say that Globant Enterprise AI is a golden path for AI adoption. Because we lived through it. The path at Globant, and also at many other companies, has already been very successful. Globant Enterprise AI. And what we're going to see during this Converge is a formula to connect models, corporate data, and agents all under a single governance platform. So, as Nicolás was saying, when incorporating artificial intelligence into a company, we need AI on every desktop. So, AI for people, but in a safe way, without information leaks and maintaining privacy. We need AI in current systems as assistants to what's already there. AI in processes, where the first step is to optimize existing processes. But then, the real transformation happens when we start to rethink the ecosystem and do things that were previously impossible. And that's when the true business impact is generated. Globant Enterprise AI enables companies to adopt AI at all these levels in a governed and organized way. Because in addition, the challenge we face is that the systems we will have to build are systems that learn on their own, interfaces that adapt to users. Basically, organizations that think. For this, companies to go down this path need three things. On one hand, to choose and govern models. Hundreds of models with hundreds of providers. The models change every day. We need a layer that allows us to use them safely, with traceability and purpose. On the other hand, we need to connect with corporate knowledge. Because without context for these models, there is no intelligence. We could call this, in a way, a corporate hub that integrates structured data, APIs, documents, and other sources. Everything that gives meaning to intelligence. And finally, let's say, in other words, we need to connect this data with these models through orchestration, which is essentially where, in this context, agents specifically come into play. The new main characters we're hearing about everywhere are the agents. They are basically entities that orchestrate, act, and collaborate with each other and with people. These three layers, models, knowledge, and agents, are the foundation of Globant Enterprise AI. And together they create something new, a digital asset unique to each company. The AI tokens of each company represent what we call its digital DNA, the intelligence that makes it unique. Unique from its competitors. That's the golden path for AI adoption, a guided path to adopting AI without losing control or identity. And the truly significant impact happens when we very carefully rethink existing processes and so start to reconsider the fundamental purpose behind those processes. So, at Globant, we ourselves have gone through this process of rethinking. And well, one of the most important processes. For Globant, the software development process. That's why, at Globant, we created Globant Coda, the agent that allowed us to reimagine the software development process. Globant Coda coordinates agents that work at every stage, from product management, through design, coding, testing, agentic low-code, all the way to deploying solutions in production. And the most powerful thing is that humans remain in control, coming up with ideas and supervising. Supervising? Where? Wherever each person feels most comfortable. Designers in Figma, program managers in Jira, and developers in different development environments. But behind the scenes, the agents collaborate, document, and learn together, coordinating through a shared knowledge base. This, as I mentioned before, is not about automating tasks. It's about orchestrating collective intelligence, humans and agents working together, each doing what they do best. The golden path for AI adoption isn't just a technological architecture, it's a new way of thinking about the future. Connecting models, agents, and knowledge under governance doesn't just create efficiency, it drives evolution. What's coming is even bigger. New physical layers with robots, agents orchestrating the real world. An era of collective intelligence where humans, digital agents, and physical agents coexist in the same creative ecosystem. So friends, the future of software is no longer written. It's managed under human supervision, executed by agents connected through Globant Enterprise AI. Now, I'll leave you with the keynote platform.
Our vision is for everyone at La Liga, from the president to every department, to have access to artificial intelligence tools that make our work more effective, faster, and even more creative, we could say.
So if it weren't for AI, we wouldn't be able to launch so many campaigns for so many different specialties and product portfolios, right? So AI was fundamental here to make it scale.
We decided to initiate a project to generate data scientists that will make knowledge available to our scientists in real time.
We're talking here about a large-scale deployment. I mean, we have made the platform accessible for all of our 700 employees.
With your support and with Globant Enterprise AI, we have created a multi-agent system framework.
The value for our team is really high. So the team now can spend more time on high-value strategy and final approval, not only on manual and repetitive rework that we have.
Decision-making becomes faster and more robust when we're using an Agentic AI-powered system. So the internal use of agents within La Liga is only the beginning. We are connecting the intelligence we are getting from the agents with our wider ecosystem, as sponsors, broadcasters, and obviously our audience, our fans.
Global Enterprise AI allow us to accelerate the building of the PharmaMar AI agentic capabilities while securing protection of PharmaMar data and intellectual property.
Welcome. It's a pleasure to share the panel with Alejandra Arbat, Eugenio Garcia, and José Lamas, leaders at Globant Enterprise AI and Globant Coda. Okay, tell us a little about the initiatives you are carrying out, who they are aimed at, and fundamentally, what problems they solve. Eugenio.
Well, it's a pleasure, Matias. So, Globant Enterprise AI is aimed, obviously, at companies that need to have an AI adoption strategy. Today, at the business level, when we talk about AI, there are two very specific needs. One is having access to the technology brought by generative AI, and the other is how we combine this with corporate data. So in my case, my day-to-day focus is, well, really about how we actually create those important hubs where, on the one hand, we allow to connect you to this whole world of LLMs, and on the other hand, we also provide you with the connectivity you need to access your corporate data, so you can later combine all that to create agentic solutions.
Alejandra.
Hi, Maddie. How are you? Well, honestly, I think that when a company starts adopting artificial intelligence and creating solutions, a new big challenge arises, which is making sure that the entire company and organization can really start using these solutions that are being developed. So my main focus is precisely on developing this space, which would essentially be like a collaborative hub of agents, so that all users can easily share the innovative solutions they've created, discover unique solutions made by others, search for them, use them, and orchestrate agents, and different types of solutions, so that in this way, artificial intelligence becomes part of the daily routine for everyone in the organization.
Great. And Jose, give us context about Globant Coda.
Gosh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here as well. So, all of this obviously makes it much easier to create solutions with artificial intelligence. This can be used in any industry. But of course, for us, it was natural to start specifically with software development because that's what we do. So our first move was to create our own tools for that. But at the same time, it's a strategic tool because it's what allows us to offer solutions that help our own clients also transform their development. Globant Coda is an agentic solution focused precisely on the entire software development cycle, not just coding, but also product areas, design, testing, and so on. That's Globant Coda.
All right, now that we've gotten a bit of context, I want to start this conversation with a thought and a statistic that comes from an MIT report from a few months ago, where they mentioned that 95% of company initiatives were not seeing a return, a real impact on the business. And this wasn't because the technology didn't work. It was because they fell into what they call pilot hell. On the other hand, every single week, we are consistently seeing truly remarkable and extraordinary advances in terms of new models and new capabilities that are coming to the market, which really leads me to ask myself, if the technology exists and really has the power to transform, what's really causing that enormous gap and creating such a challenge for companies to actually generate that impact? So, Eugenio, you're in constant conversation with clients. Tell us a bit about what their pain points are, what they're bringing up, what challenges you see for them when it comes to adopting or implementing an AI strategy.
Yeah, so lately, in many of the meetings that I've attended and participated in, when I've been with different clients from various industries and sectors, and of course with our own internal team, what we see first and foremost is companies' significant concern about how to maintain strict confidentiality and robust security of the sensitive information they're going to process through these advanced artificial intelligence models. That's like the very first barrier, the initial fear or hesitation that needs to be overcome before moving forward. Then you run into the issue of, okay, how do we make sure that the use of this technology follows all and each of the security policies? I mean, think of the compliance policies that are already defined in the company. Well, let me tell you, when you arrive at a company, it's not like it's a green field where you can just go in and build an entirely new solution from scratch. I mean, you have to adapt to what's already there. And once we overcome those initial barriers, we run into analysis paralysis. It's kind of what we were talking about before. There's such a wide variety of models, and each one has its own strengths and weaknesses depending on the use case you want to apply it to. So, of course, there's that fear of getting locked into a single provider or a single model when you're trying to solve agentic solutions that fit the company's context. On top of that, agentic solutions don't make sense unless we tie them to the company's specific context. In other words, specifically to the information you have within the company. And those are the challenges we face every single day. And I think the issue of ROI, or return on investment, also comes up because we're really looking at artificial intelligence very much from the perspective of personal productivity or solving specific tasks. And we're not really seeing it as a tool that's actually here to fundamentally transform the way we work internally within the company by leveraging and utilizing all the information and knowledge that already exists and is available in organizations.
All right, so what are the main key capabilities or strengths that Globant Enterprise AI currently offers and makes available to help various organizations today overcome these problems?
Well, actually, to be able to answer that, let me tell you just a bit briefly about how Globant Enterprise AI came about. I mean, it was actually born out of our internal needs, specifically arising from when we started to use these advanced LLMs, for example, in collaboration with José's team, to see how we could effectively generate code, as well as how we could create comprehensive test cases. And that need to switch between models very quickly. And that was the first, let's say, link in realizing that we needed something that would let us switch quickly, that would let us experiment, but at the same time, we needed traceability, observability, to understand how these agents we were building were responding. And for example, a very basic thing was not to leave a loop running in an agent that, before you know it, ends up costing us thousands of dollars in token consumption. So, well, I think Jose can tell you about his own experience.
That never happened to us. But yes, having things quickly available, easily accessible, whether it's older models or a new model comes out and the next day we know we have it available, was fundamental for us because it allowed us to be really agile in testing new things quickly, or even for different needs, to be able to try out different models, knowing that you have that. I don't know, processing videos isn't the same as processing audio or processing code, etc. And it even gives us the versatility that nowadays our agents can easily use any of these models or systems separately. That is, for different applications, we use different models, and in some cases, we even give them the option for the agent itself. There's an agent that decides, based on the question or the input it receives, which model or agent to use for those things.
Of course, yes, I mean, in a context of uncertainty, that's fundamental, and it's a context we're living in today with technology moving so fast. So being able to adapt and take control of it is key. But you also reminded me of the book Reshuffle, where they specifically mention that it's not just about the ability to automate processes, but also about the crucial capacity to coordinate effectively with others. And in an organization, coordination truly revolves around its established processes and its critical data. So you see, there's a big difference between the AI we see for general consumer use and what happens when we get into an organization. It's about how we coordinate with the entire context of that organization. So tell us a bit, Eugenio, about our Globant Enterprise AI platform. How can we integrate efficiently AI into our organization, into any given organization?
Well, all right. Let's see. The first point then was, can we achieve that flexibility, that connection hub with the different models? The next thing was, okay, how do we manage to have a connection hub with corporate data? So basically what we've done there is build different connectors. I mean, in the end, corporate information isn't just in databases, it's in countless sources of information, which can be documents or the APIs that already exist from the systems being used. So obviously at first, we initially began by creating connectors for this data, but then with the emergence, for example, of the Model Context Protocol standard, it really opened the door for us to say, okay, there's a new standard that now allows us to quickly add more tools to the agents, because in the end, agents will only be really useful to the extent that we give them all the necessary tools so they can take action, not just read contextual information, but actually be able to do things in the end. What we've achieved then with this is the ability to connect to all available models and the ability to connect to all the corporate data and to combine them when creating agents.
Awesome. And regarding what you mentioned about the corporate hub, where I connect this data, we then have what we call the agent hub, which gives an organization the ability to create different agents to tackle tasks, automate processes, or even rethink those processes. Well, it's not just about putting AI into processes, but actually rethinking them with AI, right? Tell us a bit about how that building hub works.
Well, in that case, you see, it's like we've been raising the level of abstraction, right? I mean, we started with more technical teams, asking ourselves what tools we needed to provide the technical teams. And then, how can we, in practical terms, start getting closer to users we call builders or creators who aren't necessarily technical? So we created our own agent, which we call Iris. Essentially, what Iris does is, in fact, help these users create those agents. In other words, it assists users in building their own agents. Basically, any user today at this moment can use Iris to simply and easily describe the problem they want to solve, right? They can do this using their own words and natural language. And Iris will seamlessly and automatically define the prompt for you, and then select from among hundreds of available models the one that's best suited for the specific context that you're trying to address. What is the best reasoning strategy for that agent? And fundamentally, among the hundreds of tools and connections we can have to everything we were talking about, which tools are the best for that particular case? Just by using a chat, I'm already creating an agent. I can test it right there, and if I'm satisfied with the result, I can share it with the organization so that others can start using it.
I remember that we have a really interesting anecdote from back when we had just launched Iris. The marketing team came over to our workspace and they were honestly kind of amazed and surprised because, people who might not have any technical knowledge at all, who definitely aren't developers, were suddenly able to create their very own agent that actually helped them generate marketing content for their daily work tasks. And it was a truly real wow moment for them.
Well, you're touching on a key point there, and now I want to talk with you about that, which is also the democratization of artificial intelligence. I mean, the real experts in the business, in their processes, are the people in the organization who aren't necessarily technical. So bringing technology closer to them in this way really helps a lot so that they can be involved. But could you tell us a little more about your experience with what it means to democratize artificial intelligence within an organization?
Well, I think that when a company starts interacting with artificial intelligence solutions, something happens. What actually happens is pretty much what usually happens when you start experimenting with any new product. That famous adoption curve appears, where on one end you have the early adopters, who are the users that quickly jump in to try things out and start creating AI solutions. And on the other end, you have the users who are more hesitant, who are waiting to see the value that others are experiencing. The thing is, adopting artificial intelligence isn't optional for companies. It's a must. And I also think it needs to happen quickly because everything we're experiencing is happening very fast. So, for example, what happened to us at Globant? When we made these tools available to create solutions, to create agents, many users started building solutions. But of course, they either did it individually or that knowledge or work ended up locked within teams. So the knowledge ended up being trapped in isolated silos. And another thing we started to notice was that maybe one area or department was developing an artificial intelligence agent to solve a specific need they had, and maybe another team, without even knowing it, was also developing.
Doing the same thing from scratch again? Yes, we saw that happen in several cases.
Exactly. So at that point, we said, well, clearly we need a dedicated space, essentially in order to make all the various innovative solutions being created within the company available so they can be shared. And that's how this Agent Hub was born, which is precisely this space, not just for sharing, but also so that people can, as I mentioned before, in this same place, use solutions that even others have created so they can run them, so they can orchestrate artificial intelligence solutions. And in this way, it starts to spread throughout the whole company. So within this hub, what we allow is that perhaps a user who is actually the creator of a solution goes through a publishing workflow. Then after that, it also goes through a curation process. And once, let's say, it goes through that whole process, it gets published and is available for anyone to use.
And is it changing how people within an organization interact with AI?
Yes, I think that, we're, I believe, living through a very significant moment of transformation when it comes to the user experience. I mean, we're maybe moving from a time when we were all very used to interacting with various applications, following manual processes, clicking buttons, and searching for things manually, to this entirely new era of intelligent agents, where what we're really trying to do is put the user at the very center in order to solve the specific needs that the user has. So the idea is that an agent can help a user to successfully accomplish whatever tasks they may need to handle in each particular case, providing support and assistance as required. So, well, what we did was, when we developed the experience within the platform, we did it with this idea of being in a moment of transition. So, on one hand, we also included Iris, an agent who accompanies you throughout the experience, not just to create, but also to help you find the solution that best matches your needs, and to help you execute the solutions you need to implement. And this agent has the context of everything that's happening within the platform. And that's exactly why it can help you throughout the entire experience. And on the other hand, yes?
Sorry, an important point about that is actually the traceability that still remains. In fact, we've been collecting valuable and detailed insights about what kinds of uses are happening with the agents within the company, thanks to all those interactions that are taking place with the different agents.
That's information the organization didn't have before. And they'll be able to use it to understand those behaviors.
Exactly. What's happening is, well, since we're currently in this unique moment of transition, we're still keeping some of the more traditional ways of discovering solutions. For example, using a search bar or being able to filter results. And what we're essentially trying to achieve is to have the best of both worlds, meaning to combine contextual intelligence with maybe also keeping user control.
Well, after this journey where we create, govern, democratize, and make it available for consumption, sum it up for me. What's the impact? What impact does the Agents Hub create in an organization?
Look, for me, above all else, the impact has to do with the cultural transformation that this generates. I mean, it's not just about enabling tools or a technical matter. I think the most important thing happening here is this profound cultural change, which, of course, everything we're developing helps to improve productivity, increase efficiency, enhance the quality of work, and integrate it into daily life. It also helps a lot, obviously, to break down silos. As I mentioned before, about the work people do, but I think above all, I believe we're helping to change the mindset that's needed for this new, as Eugenio said earlier, for this new way of working that we need to adopt, which is like flipping a switch and saying, we're not just following the same processes as before, but now using artificial intelligence. I mean, this has to mean real change, a truly complete and fundamental transformation in the way we're actually working. So above all, I really think it's an essential enabler for this to start permeating throughout the entire company and to gradually become an integral part of the organization's DNA.
You just touched on a point that was mentioned earlier, not just about automation or assistance, but also about coordination and collaboration, which is something we see a lot as well. On Globant Coda's side, we're doing things for different stages of development, but the ease with which things can be discovered, coordinated, and how people can discover other things and participate in other processes is a radical change. Because it's no longer just about having assistance to do the task at hand, but about having the ability to see much more clearly what others are doing and even collaborate with them. I mean, it's, for example, someone who primarily focuses on the design side, but today their deliverables might, for instance, include a prototype of something actually working, meaning they're actively getting involved in the coding part as well.
Now that I have you here, Jose, I'm really interested in your experience and your point of view, because you faced a challenge similar to the one our audience is dealing with right now. You had the challenge of taking on the task of transforming our industry, to develop the agents that are going to transform our business and our industry. Tell us a bit about what that experience was like, the obstacles you faced, and what you learned.
Yeah, well, let's see. Like I said before, for us it was natural to start with code. We live and breathe it, and our first experiences were with code. What at one point was the code fixer, which even focused on a very specific use case. I initially wanted to fix a bug, and then it gradually evolved into a general purpose coding agent, where I can ask it, I need to build an app from scratch, or I want to modify this app, or I want to document it, and so on. But at the same time, other important initiatives also started to gradually emerge and become noticeable in different areas. And like I mentioned before, it's not just that we were doing it because we work on it, but it also allowed us to take advantage of it for our own development projects.
In fact, we're using it across all our teams, all the time. I mean, we do a lot of dog fooding, both with the core platform itself and with all of the different agents that the Globant Coda team is actively building and developing so that they can help us spot errors and issues much faster than we otherwise could. They are also able to suggest potential solutions for those problems and to generate all of the necessary automated test case work that is required. Honestly, we've also noticed a huge change in how all of this significantly speeds up and improves our daily work, which is essentially about building a comprehensive platform, and of course, we do that by programming.
Yep, and just like we program, we also have to manage processes and products. And so agents emerged that, given a recording of a conversation with clients or client interviews, could automatically generate epics and user stories from that, and then take those same epics and user stories and turn them into ready-made application flow designs, into specific page designs and components ready for the implementation team to pick up. That was...
Right there you mark a turning point, right? Because let's see, how do you tackle a problem like that? What we called a software development cycle seems simple, but in reality, it's a super complex process with lots of back and forth, involving several intermediate steps, and it's not always the same from one project to another, or from one team to another. So, how do you tackle a problem like that? Do you build it piece by piece? Do you look at the big picture? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so what we tried to do was maximize how easy it is to start using it, meaning being able to integrate ourselves directly whenever possible into the different scenarios of each type of work. For example, the designer works in Figma and has an agent that generates flows, wireframes, and designs for him, but they remain in control from within Figma. In other words, the operation and the outcome are managed inside Figma. For someone making product decisions, they get artifacts, such as detailed documentation or specifications that can be stored in Jira or any other story management tool to use. For those who work with code, what we specifically aimed for was to truly maximize the overall possibility of specialization and seamless integration with the natural workflows and processes of each individual process. But at the same time, in order to truly encourage and enable effective knowledge sharing, that is, ensuring that the output of one agent can seamlessly become the input for the next agent in the process.
In other words, the expert is still there, but more in a supervisory role within the same environments.
And in a way that's comfortable for them, because it's not like now you have to change your way of working and switch to another tool or a different workflow. They continue in their own natural environment.
Well, but a project also involves a lot of coordination. This is also reflected in the agents, in their behavior. Do they also need to coordinate?
Yes, so you have both things. You have the possibility of individual executions, focusing. Actually, that really makes adoption much easier because it's a segmented option. I can, for example, start adopting the assistance part for testing within a team and not change anything else, and then let it expand into other areas. In another team, maybe they only use the design part. In another team, they use the code part. But that also allows, going back to what Alejandra said, for them to discover that there are other things and that some things connect with others, which makes it easier for adoption to expand throughout the entire development cycle.
Well, we're almost at the end, and I think everyone's message has been clear and strong. It's no longer optional for a company to have a strategy around AI and its adoption. So I want you to tell me in a few words why you think building this strategy around Globant Enterprise AI is the smartest and safest path.
At Globant Coda, we had our own experience using the platform to generate all these agents for the software development cycle effectively and efficiently. And beyond that, it even allowed us to reinvent our processes and even reinvent our business model.
Well, in short, for me personally, as I mentioned before, it's truly essential for organizations to find a suitable platform that genuinely helps them adopt artificial intelligence throughout the entire organization. And Globant Enterprise AI is precisely an enabler that truly allows you to move from individual artificial intelligence initiatives to a much broader collective intelligence, which in turn lets you share, create, and publish solutions, find solutions, use them, and also build on top of solutions that have been created by others. So in this way, we are enhancing knowledge, we are evolving more quickly, and we are embedding artificial intelligence into the DNA of the organization.
Look, what we've done with Globant Enterprise AI is build that golden path for AI adoption within companies. And we built it not only based on our own internal experience, but also on what we've already done with our clients. This is where we've reached out to all these clients and connected all their corporate data with all these hundreds of AI models we have available at the platform, combining them to create agentic solutions within the context of the company's information. And all of this is built on a layer of observability and security that alleviates those fears or concerns we talked about at the very beginning of this conversation.
Well, I just want to thank you, and I invite the audience to stay with us. There's much more on-demand deep dives to offer you. And also, at the end of the event, you'll have a link where you can register for Globant Enterprise AI, and I encourage you to try it out firsthand. Thank you very much.
Building software is getting harder. New demands, tighter deadlines, and the need to integrate AI everywhere. But what if you could build smarter with AI tools that accelerate every stage of your development process? Nuco Bank, a leading digital bank in this example, planned a partnership with Freshmart to offer exclusive supermarket discounts directly in their app. But building this functionality typically takes weeks of requirements and iterations, delaying launch and missing market opportunities. That's when they brought in Globant Coda, the first enterprise-class agentic suite for software development, built on top of Globant Enterprise AI. With Globant Coda, Nuco Bank accelerated every stage of development. With Product Definition Agent, they defined requirements, user stories, and dependencies in minutes, giving product and tech teams a clear, aligned starting point. Application Design Agent collaborated with designers to create intuitive screens for viewing, activating, and redeeming discounts, ready for user validation. GeneXus Next modeled the mission-critical backend, generated entities and relationships, applied business rules, provisioned the database, and published integration APIs. Coding Agent assisted developers by writing, debugging, and improving the activation logic, integrating Freshmart systems and generating documentation and tests, accelerating implementation while keeping devs as the decision makers. Also reviewed the codebase, detected errors, and proposed fixes, enabling developers to improve code quality before deployment. Testing Agent created and automated end-to-end test cases, empowering QA teams to validate functionality and user experience faster and with confidence. Each agent works independently or as part of Globant Coda's integrated system, collaborating with your teams to deliver smarter, faster, and better. From ideation to deployment, Globant Coda connects and accelerates the entire software development lifecycle. Globant Coda, one suite, smarter software development.
Welcome to the AI industry solution space in Converge. For years, technology decisions have swung on a pendulum between build and buy. Some cycles push organizations to build large bespoke systems, while others push them to buy standard software and adapt to those. In the last few years, that pendulum has been under a lot of stress. COVID accelerated digitalization much faster than most roadmaps anticipated, while the rest of generative AI has led many companies to reevaluate their incumbent solutions and operating models. For a while, that created mixed signals. But among the organizations that are actually moving beyond AI paralysis, a pattern is emerging. They are adopting a build and buy strategy, building where they need differentiation and control, and relying on strong reusable solutions for everything else. At the same time, we're moving beyond simple chatbots to agentic systems. These AI systems are connected to your data, your legacy ecosystem, your workflows, while having to operate in a way that is compliant, secure, and predictable. Beyond the traditional automation of previous tech cycles, these solutions combine AI-driven automation with humans in the loop for expertise, control, and accountability. Globant Industry Solutions are our way of addressing that reality. AI-powered, industry-specific blueprints that we adapt with you, combining the robustness of a platform with the flexibility of a build. Let me make this concrete with a few examples of what we are already doing with clients, some of which are already sharing their success story in this Converge. In Pharma R&D, we're helping clients like PharmaMar understand compounds in their pipeline with an agentic system that connects internal research and development, regulatory and commercial data with external evidence on tumor type, treatment lines, and met needs. Stakeholders can interrogate this data in real time, reaching insights up to 15 times faster with over 90% accuracy, while clinical teams get an integrated view that reduces decision uncertainty and increases the probability of trial success. On the commercial side of pharma, we are reimagining how our clients operate their established brands and engage with their medical ecosystem, including healthcare professionals, MSLs, sales reps, and medical teams, helping them stay up to date with new research and care data for existing medication and treatment options. We can help clients build these capabilities internally, and we can also operate them as a managed service as we do with Organon, where our human experts with AI agents work together on targeting and content workflows, supporting the processes that go through internal medical approvals and track performance against agreed-on business metrics. AI allows us to take creativity and the highest quality of services in knowledge work and make them available to everyone. In energy, for YPF, we are supporting the modernization of key parts of the complex oil and gas supply chain with agents running on our Globant Enterprise AI platform. This multi-agent approach is changing how procurement, stock, and material data are managed, enabling faster and more informed decisions across the network. In media, our Drita solution is an intelligent centralized monitoring tool for live streaming. It watches live feeds, telemetry, and events, automatically detecting potential issues in real time and escalating incidents to the right teams, reducing the risk of interruptions, allowing broadcasters to focus on delivering great live experiences to the audiences. And for other industries like airlines and hospitality, we're building solutions like Liquid UI, which are a way to dynamically customize the front end so you can adapt the buying experience as users plan their trips without rebuilding the entire interface every time they want to experiment or personalize. Across these transformations, the impact we see from our agentic industry-specific solutions comes in two big areas. First, for teams, or how does this change people's day-to-day work? They do more with the same or similar budgets, achieving higher quality and customized work, with greater agility and much faster time to market from idea to execution. Second, for operations, or how does the system run as a whole, AI agents help structure and route work more intelligently, monitor key signals in real time, and trigger the right workflows when something drifts from plan. They enforce consistent processes and checks and give you a live picture, making it easier to scale across brands, markets, or sites without losing quality or governance. AI allows us to take creativity and the highest quality of services in knowledge work and make them available to everyone. These are just a few examples of how our AI industry solutions turn the vision and promise of AI into something very practical. If you see parallels with your own challenges, our next step is simple. Identify one or two high-value areas, and we'll bring our industry and technology experts along with our accelerators to co-adapt it with your teams and connect them with yours to make AI come to life. We'll love to explore where this approach could meaningfully change how your teams work and how your operations run. Let's talk about what your first next-gen AI solution could be.
Hi everyone, I'm Esteban Sancho, Chief Technology Officer for the US at Globant. It's great to be here with you today. right in the middle of an event full of ideas, energy, and big bets for the future. So let's jump right in. Today, we are living through the collision of two massive forces. The first is impossible to ignore: generative AI. It's redefining what technology can produce and how fast it can produce it. The second force is one we live with for far too long. The traditional professional services model, built on 7 hours, simply can't keep pace with an AI-accelerated world. I spent more than 20 years in the IT services industry, and for 2 decades, one thing has always bothered me: the misalignment of incentives in the hourly model. When you sell hours, productivity is quietly impacted. Speed becomes penalized, efficiency reduces revenue, and ambition hits a ceiling. It's honestly the reason I've stayed at Globant so long. We never grew by spending huge marketing budgets. We grew because our only option was to over-deliver for clients. Good enough was never good enough. But across the industry, that hourly model persisted. And now AI is breaking it completely. When AI compresses workflows and executes tasks instantly, tying value to hours simply feels outdated. It's time to move from buying time to buying capacity. Of course, saying this is easy. Doing it inside a large enterprise is hard. Today, we see a wide spectrum of AI adoption. On one end, big organizations buying thousands of licenses, rolling them out, and hoping for magic. 6 months later, nothing changes, because the tools are new, but the processes are old. On the other end, AI-native startups. They operate in a completely different way. They are spec-driven, AI-first, and treat AI as a force multiplier. They aren't looking for 10% improvements. They look for 10x. Our job, working with some of the world's leading brands, is to find the practical middle ground. How do you get startup-level velocity without sacrificing the quality, security, and confidence enterprises require? Because you can't trade enterprise-grade rigor for speed. You need both. Here's the truth. You can't just give teams AI tools and expect transformation. We learned we had to rethink the entire software development lifecycle. We redesigned processes from the ground up. We defined new roles. We retrained our people, not just on skills, but on mindset. We asked them to stop thinking of AI as a helper and start thinking of themselves as orchestrators of AI. We moved from AI helps a human code faster to AI is part of an industrialized production chain. This rethink led to AI pods. AI pods are a new operating model. They shift engagement from buying hours to buying guaranteed, predictable, AI-accelerated capacity. Instead of a black box of human effort, we use industrialized workflows. Domain-specific engines generate the artifacts. Human experts validate them. And enterprise-grade quality is built from the start, not reviewed at the end. Our best people. All the ceremonies and strategic decisions remain human-led. But behind the scenes, AI accelerates every step of the chain. It finally aligns our incentives with yours. Deliver the highest quality outcome in the shortest possible time. Let me make this concrete. A few months ago, a major European financial institution came to us with a huge regulatory challenge and a hard deadline. They realized that using traditional delivery models, they simply wouldn't make it. The risk was massive. So they brought us in. We didn't deploy traditional squads. We deployed AI pods. Using this industrialized AI-first model, we completed the entire scope in half the time originally estimated. They met their regulatory deadline comfortably. And while yes, there were cost savings, the real story was time to market. When being late isn't an option, the old model falls short. With all that said, let me tell you this. We are convinced that capacity-based, AI-orchestrated delivery is the future of our industry. But we also know every organization walks this path at its own pace. We will continue to deliver traditional professional services where they make sense. And at the same time, we'll keep investing aggressively in AI pods because they represent an operating model that will soon become the norm. Our commitment is simple: meet you where you are today and help prepare you for what's coming tomorrow. Thank you.
And that's a wrap for Converge 2025. What a journey. 2 days, dozens of voices, and one big takeaway. AI only matters when it transforms your business. We've seen what that movement looks like, from strategy and culture to the very tools powering transformation. And those tools are here now with Globant Enterprise AI. If you want to keep exploring everything we shared today, over 20 deep dives are now available on demand at the links shared on the chat. As Guibert mentioned earlier, we've got something special for you, an exclusive access to a free trial of Globant Enterprise AI. That means you won't just see what the platform can do, you'll experience it yourself. Experiment, explore, build, and see how execution feels when AI is done right. From all of us here at Globant, thank you for being part of this global conversation. Until next time, keep building what's next. This is Converge 2025. See you soon.